Hi everybody, it's Rob here from Glas Data, and this is the third video in the series on how to use our new function builder. So make sure you watch part 1 and part 2 before coming on to this one. And I'm just going to carry on where we left off. So we'd created some basic functions, we learned how to use variables in those functions. We then learned how to use some of the default functions that we support and some of the constants as well, and then combine that with variables. So today I'm going to cover off the kind of more advanced actions when it comes to variables. So let's get started. I'm going to add a new function column. I'm just going to call this advanced variables, and I want to hit the function format. And so what I'm going to do first, if I just start typing CO2, you'll see that we have this advanced options kind of button at the bottom there. If I tap on that, you'll see that we have something called function actions. Okay. So if I delete this, you'll see that it disappears, and if I start typing this again, you'll see that it appears. So every time you create or start referencing a variable, you get a new entry here, which allows you to do certain actions on it. So I'm just going to start with the single one here for now. You can see that next to this first CO2, we've got this latest. Okay, so by default, all of the variables that you use are just going to use the latest value. Now, latest just means take the current value. So in this case, the latest value is 1016, and just use that inside the function. But we have two other options here as well. We've got sum and average. Okay, so let's say that we want to get the average CO2 value. So I can hit the average button. And then what's going to happen now is by default, this is going to take all the CO2 values that we've ever collected over all time. So in this case, that's 9,789 values, and it's going to average all of them. So if I create this one, we'll do all time average. So if I create that one, you can see that the all-time average CO2 value is 1,314.24 as of 6:40 on the 29th of June. Okay, so as new values are added, it takes that into account and it changes the average. But there's a few more things we can do here. So let's say let's add a new column here, and we're going to say latest 24-hour average. And if I go back into my function builder, type CO2, open up the advanced options and hit the average option again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this option here. So if you hit on the all time, you can see we've got a bunch of different options here. So we've got calculate the average for today. Okay, so that starts at midnight and ends at 1 millisecond before midnight on the same day. The last 24 hours, so that means that it will go back to 6:40 yesterday. Total for this, so average for this week, average for this month, and then average for this year. And then we've also got this specific date option, which I'll do in a second. So I'm going to go with the last 24 hours, and I'm going to create that one. And you can see that the average value for the last 24 hours is actually less than the all-time, and that's just 926.86, again, as of 6:40. So as new values come in, this is going to constantly be updated. So if you want to see since 10 past 6 until yesterday at 10 past 6, that was 925. Just carrying on from this, if I go back and create a specific date average, just remember that all of this can be done with totals as well. In fact, we'll do a total now. Total. I'm going to go function again. I'm going to do CO2, advanced options. We're going to go for sum, and then I'm going to say I want to calculate the sum from a specific date range. Okay, now this is from when you want to start calculating the sum. So I just tap on this and I can choose my date. So let's say I want to start calculating this from the 2nd of June at let's say 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so June the 2nd at 1 p.m. And you can actually combine this with other things. So I can say CO2, oh, well, I deleted it, that's okay. I can say I want the square root or the power, for example. I'm going to do the power of CO2 divided by 12. In fact, there we go, CO2 squared divided by 12. So just an arbitrary function, but I'm showing you how to combine all of the different, in fact, I'll do divided by pi. So we've got a function, a constant, and then we're going to have an action where we're going to say, get me the total since the 2nd of June at 1 p.m. There we go. So we've got quite a few things going on here, but what I'm doing for you is I'm combining all the different aspects of the function builder to kind of give you a flavor of all the different things that you can do to it all at once. So we've got the function here, which is we're basically doing CO2 squared. We're dividing that by a constant, in this case pi, but we could also change the constant to be, for example, phi, which is the golden ratio. And then what we're doing is we're getting the total for CO2 since June the 2nd at 1 p.m. And that's going to be the variable which then goes into this function. So if I create that column, I'm going to rename this everything. Create column. And you can see it's quite a big number, but that's how you do it essentially. So that's pretty much everything to do with the function builder. And it kind of gives you the power of essentially anything you want to do. So any mathematical function that you want to run within our system is possible. Thank you very much for watching, and any questions or comments, please do get in touch.